So tonight is all about a cappella. Jewish a cappella primarily, but we're going to talk a little bit about a cappella music so you know exactly what it is, where it came from. Now raise your hand if you have fallen in love with a cappella over the years.
I like it.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you enjoy it. Raise your hand if you enjoy it. Raise your hand if you saw the movie Pitch Perfect. Yeah, well, you know, that's a great introduction into some of the what we would call the hardcore collegiate battles, a cappella battles. But you know, of all of the different types of music, I believe a cappella is a real special one. It's a simple definition. It's music where there's no instrumental accompaniment. Nobody standing with a guitar, nobody with drums, nobody on piano. In this case of a cappella, really only the voice truly matters. And the cool part about the voice is that it can create all kinds of different sounds. You want to do percussion. Boop, boop. Like all kinds of different ways of learning and singing can all be done vocally. Now, who can tell me, without looking it up, when a cappella became a thing? When was it first created? I'm not talking about just people singing without instruments. That's happened since the beginning of music. I'm talking about like true a cappella as a genre.
Was it in the church many, many, many years ago?
Could be. Anybody have a thought? Give me a century. I'll give you a hint. It's 1 through 21. CE.
I'm going to guess that's more recent than we think, like the 20th century, like in the 1900s.
All right, so we got 1900s. There's a good guess.
1950s.
1950s.
That's specific.
All right, so mid-20th century.
Mm-hmm.
How about if I told you it was 15th century?
Oh my goodness.
Medieval times we're talking. That's where it's so...
Thinking.
What they were able to do was to create what we call in music polyphonic music. Polyphonic literally just means poly, many, phonic sounds, right? So polyphonic through choral singers, choirs, rhythm and beats. Didn't need musical instruments. Those types of techniques really have been around for centuries. And it definitely has come alive, much more so in modern days, in creating and sustaining new types of music, more types of modern music that we hear in secular music. However, a cappella really dates back to religious singing in the 15th and 16th century. So, Marge, you were right in a way that it is back to the church. And you said many, many years ago, so I guess you got that right too. So congratulations.
Wasn't it Gregorian chant, Rabbi?
Yes, Gregorian chants was really those were the first of the a cappella sounds, the a cappella music. So a cappella actually comes from the term alla capella, meaning in the style of the chapel, right? Done in churches. However, it was accompanied by instruments like the organ. But back in the first century of Christianity, mind you, even Judaism to a certain extent, there weren't any instruments. And so Gregorian chants were really the first of the a cappella music, as Marge just let us know. And then religious communities decided that the hymns that they sang, the psalms that we sang, needed to be a cappella. So many different core groups, including Jewish, more traditional sectors, used only their voices, no instruments. And do we have an understanding as to why Judaism went that route? Anybody know why Judaism went the route of no instruments, especially on Shabbat? Yes?
Shabbat.
Shabbat, but what about Shabbat?
Well, it's work to play an instrument.
Right.
But it isn't. It's interesting because
It's not.
the Talmud says nothing about instruments playing on Shabbat.
Our conservative
The
synagogue
rabbis-
lied to us.
What's the concern instead?
They were used in the temple, and they didn't want they didn't want them used again until the temple was rebuilt.
That's a fantastic hypothesis. It isn't correct,
Nope.
but
Carrying
I really
them.
like that answer. What was the issue, though? If instruments were okay, why not on Hagim and Shabbat?
Because you carried them.
That is a really interesting question, or an interesting statement. That could be right, unless you're, the Eruv has something to do with it, or the instrument's already there. So perhaps that could be the case, but it's not what I'm looking for here. It's really if they break. If a string breaks, because, pianos is a percussion instrument, and piano has strings. Guitar has strings. If a string breaks, that's where the work comes in. And that's strictly melachot. So the traditional sectors said, we're not going to do this anymore. So the tradition of a cappella singing in general, it originated in Europe, more so around the Baltic Sea. And it spread across Europe pretty quickly and into the New World. And whoever had mentioned in the 1900s or the 19th and 20th centuries about the a cappella music influencing the style of music, you're right. Because in the United States, that's really where it came to be. Now, what type... Pentatonic, 613. We already mentioned some of them. There are some other wonderful music that we're going to be listening to, but what would be, other than in a religious setting, what is the more modern day type of a cappella group that we hear from today? Not necessarily a large group.
Barbershop quartet.
There it is. That's right, Deborah.
Finally, I got one.
You got one right. A barbershop quartet. A barbershop quartet obviously meaning 4 people. You have a first tenor, you have a second tenor, you have a baritone, and you have a bass. Bass and baritone are meant to create the low sounds and the percussion, while tenor and second tenor handle melody and harmony. Right? It's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. So after barbershop came to be, what we would call doo-wop, right, is the a cappella singing in the 1940s that came to be by African Americans, mostly in their genre. And it mostly focused on subjects like love, and it was really, really, really beautiful. Then, in real modern day, colleges started to practice using a cappella to really take songs that used instrumentation originally and really expanded it quite a bit. And now it even got into the mainstream media and pop culture in television shows like Glee and music like and movies like Pitch Perfect. And you really see how it came to life. So, what we're going to do right now is take a listen as soon as I can pull it up here. If I were a playlist, I would be right here. All right. Take a listen to this. This is a group called 613. They are a Jewish a cappella group. 613 meaning the number of commandments that there were. And what 613 does is they take a lot of parodies, music that you know from the secular world, and turn them into Jewish themes. So take a listen to this. This is going to run about 5 minutes. And please note completely that regardless of who you're going to see on screen, this is not a political endorsement.
Give it up for our outstanding musical guest, 613, who just did an amazing performance for Michelle and I of a Hamilton remix. If you ever have a chance to get the mixtape, you should buy it.
I tell the tale of those before me.
I tell the tale of those before me.
And of their victory in the fight.
And of their victory in the fight.
And now our children tell the story.
And now our children tell the story.
They tell the story of the light.
They tell the story of the light.
We'll add another one each night.
Light to freedom.
They tell the story. I am not throwing out in the pot. I am not throwing out in the pot. Hey yo, I'm straight game, I'm spinning while y'all on the chinning, and I'm not throwing out in the pot. Make the menorah hot.
See, it isn't all about presents, cause gratitude for miracles is Hanukkah's essence. The Maccabees revolted, thwarted Greek plans. Now a horror we dance, and we fry latkes and pans. I'm gonna make them hot.
Yeah, we give thanks for being free because of the revolt led by Judah Maccabee. They defy, do or die. You and I feel great and celebrate as the lights we illuminate.
And I am not throwing out in the pot. I am not throwing out in the pot. Hey yo, I'm straight game, I'm spinning while y'all are in the chinning, and I'm not throwing out in the pot. I am not throwing out in the pot. I am not throwing out in the pot. Hey yo, I'm straight game, I'm spinning while y'all are in the chinning, and I'm not throwing out in the pot. Everybody sing.
Menorah hot, we gonna light up. Make the menorah hot,
we're gonna light up, light
make the menorah hot,
light up, light
make the menorah hot,
light up,
make the menorah hot,
light up,
make it hot, hot, hot. Make menorahs hot, make menorahs hot, and I am not throwing guilt in the. Ma'osur Yeshuati, Ma'osur Yeshuati, Ma'osur Yeshuati.
How do I turn it off?
The incredible honor of singing for the President and First Lady of the United States. It's capped off an amazing year for us, and we hope the next year will be even better if we can come and sing for you. If you're interested in booking us, please check out our website at 613.com.
Okay, there we go. So, that was super fun. Lots and lots of wonderful storytelling, good vision, great music, tons of creativity. What did you hear? What did you notice specifically about 613 in general?
All male.
Yeah, all male.
Well,
What else?
you look like they're like religious, right? Like Orthodox, because they're all wearing the kippah.
Some are, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They look like they're having so much fun.
They do look like they're having fun.
And very talented.
Fun to watch.
Anybody else have an observation?
They make all these different sounds with their voices.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. So I
That's what I do.
I want to point out
can't hear you.
that
Thank you.
what am I saying here? I'd like to point out that the a cappella groups that are primarily Jewish and popular that you hear about often, 613, the Maccabees, they are all male. And the reason they're all male is not to offend. The idea of kol isha in traditional sectors, meaning the voice of the woman or the voice of the female, is apparently disturbing to some of our traditional Jewish counterparts. However, I would then beg to argue that I find it completely insulting and an issue that women are not included. So, I tend to take the egalitarian approach. What can I say? But that's one of the reasons why you see all men. And so when you would type in, into YouTube Jewish a cappella groups, the ones that are going to come up are primarily all men and produced by Chabad or Eish HaTorah. That doesn't mean there isn't fantastic a cappella outside of those groups. Because where do we find it? In the collegiate realm. We find Jewish a cappella groups primarily in the collegiate realm. Kids from 18 to 22, and they join a club, just like they would play sports intramurally or even for scholarship. That is what they do, and they come back and they're a part of alumni associations and they sing together. It's really incredible, and many of them are actually, they started on the East Coast, primarily in Ivy League schools where most of the a cappella groups formed back over the course of the last 2 centuries. Now, some of these groups, first of all, let me ask you, do you know any Jewish a cappella groups that are collegiate? Yes, Marge.
Actually, Vet Shalom had the University of Pennsylvania one, and I think I've also heard the Yale one.
So Penn is Renana.
I don't remember the name.
Renana is what
they do a cultural concert every year, and one year they brought in, and they shared it with another synagogue, I think. They were absolutely phenomenal. And
Yale's is Magevet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really wonderful. Does anybody not? Tufts definitely has one. Tufts is actually one of my favorites. They're called Shir Appeal. Shir Appeal. They're really fantastic. Anybody else know of any more?
Me. Okay, speaking as a proud mother, my oldest son was part of the Boston University, a Jewish a cappella group called Kol Echad.
Kol Echad, yep.
All 4 years of his college experience, he was the musical director his last 2 years. We lived in Connecticut at that time, so we were able to go to just about every concert he ever had.
Mm-hmm.
The other interesting thing, I was texting with him today in preparation for coming tonight, and I was reminded that every year they performed at the Jewish Theological JTS.
Oh, nice.
It's called the Jewish Collegiate Festival for the Performing Arts.
Fun.
And he actually sent me the program from it from like 2004 when he participated, because he was there from 2003 to 2007.
Mm-hmm.
There were 22 Jewish a cappella groups from universities, and most of them were from the East Coast, but some of them were, I remember University of Michigan had one.
Yeah, and, University of Michigan is they're very good. They are they're Kol HaKavod. And
Yeah.
then, so UCLA has one. They're called Sheer Bruin.
Yeah. I love some of the names are really funny. I mean,
The one that I was never a part of, because remember, I didn't love to sing too much at that point, was at Ohio State, where I went, called the Meshuggah Notes.
Michigan Notes. Actually, I think I'm looking at the program. They were there, and Mazel Tones. I don't know where they're
Mhm.
from. I mean, they're in high notes, and there's
So-
all kinds of clever names. But
So one thing, yeah, and one thing you'll notice about Jewish a cappella groups is some of them are rather small. You only need four people total. Most of them have 8 to 12, but some are much bigger. You really don't want too many more than 20 in a group, or else it just gets a little out of control. You're talking more about choral singing at that point. What I'd like to play for you is this really, this is a group from called Kolenu. They are from Princeton University, and I really like their sound. And what they did during the pandemic was something that very few of these groups actually did, and that was create the virtual choir style with a cappella. So I am going to play that for you now. Hold on. What was interesting about them, first of all, the gentleman who was in the middle was probably the most American sounding Hebrew singer I've ever heard. But that's to each their own. But what I want to tell you about that is a cappella is kind of like, it's kind of like a team, right? If others are hitting well, you hit well. If others are playing, to the top of their ability in basketball, you're going to have a better chance of winning that game, or team defense, or whatever that might be. A cappella, you feed off of one another because you're so reliant on rhythms and making sure you're lined up. What you just saw was incredibly difficult. To do that from a virtual choir standpoint with nothing else other than vocals is almost impossible. That's why I found it to be so impressive. Did anybody appreciate that as well? Cool. This group that I'm going to introduce to you now is this is the Maccabees, and you've heard of the Maccabees. They are actually a very very popular group. They are an all-male group. They were just in Orange County pretty recently, but they also did some really beautiful remakes of famous songs. And so the first one that I want to do is so appropriate, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that all of our prayers are with our brothers and sisters in Israel right now as they go through what is arguably become routine in their lives and is devastating and horrific. And having lived through that, I really feel for them. Sleepless nights, a lot of anxiety, and we just pray that peace will come much sooner rather than later on both sides. But, I certainly know and very firmly believe that if Hamas stopped shooting rockets, then pretty sure the war would stop. So. But in any case, we think of our brothers and sisters in Israel right now and hope for peace that will come. And so this is a song by the Maccabees called Home. And I hope you enjoy it.
been a lot of places. I've been all around the world, seen a lot of faces. Never know where I was on the horizon. Ooh, well I know, so I'll be rising back home. No, we won't forget where we came from. The city won't change us. We beat to the same drum. No, we won't forget where we came from. The city won't change us. We beat to the same drum. Don't forget where you belong. I'm going home to the place where I belong. Don't forget where you belong. I'm going home. No, you think you got me just wrong. I'm going home to the place where I belong. Where your love has always been enough for me. You say that it's hard to commit to it. You say that it's hard standing still. Don't you know that I spend all my nights counting backwards the days till I'm home? If only New York weren't so far away. I promise this city won't get in our way. When you're scared and alone, just know that I'm already home. Be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons that fill you with fear. The trouble that might drag you down. You get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place. I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgiven my mistakes. I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming. Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. And no matter where we go, we always find our way back home. Don't forget where you belong. Let me go home. And no matter where we go, we always find our way back home. Let me go home. We always find our way back home.
I love that. I think that is such a powerful,
Beautiful.
really beautiful mashup. Well, that's what we call a mashup. A mashup is when you take a whole bunch of songs and then you put them together. A medley is when they're one after the other. A mashup is when you combine them one on top of the other, right? And so this is both a medley and a mashup at times. And I love the sentiment that the Maccabeats put out there because they're really tugging at your heartstrings there. And they're creating a production, and it's not only about the music, it's about the visual quality of their production, as well as the audio quality of their production. You'll notice that the Maccabeats are a little bit of a bigger group than 613. They are of mostly different ages, but many of them are within 18 to 25 years old. While they are all wearing kippot, they are not all Orthodox. However, in keeping with the same idea of this Kol Isha business, they are male only. And you know, it's not only because of male only voices that and tradition that those decisions were made. The Maccabees, for example, their voices just mesh better when it's all male. Just like there are some really beautiful a cappella groups that are all female as well. So while one can't assume, I guarantee you 613 is the way they are because of the idea of Kol Isha. Any questions thus far? Any statements, comments?
I love the blend of the harmony.
Yeah.
It was so perfect.
Yeah.
And they were together so perfectly, which was so essential.
I agree. They are really a spectacular group. What I'd like to play for you now, we're just going to kind of go through these things. This is a group from Tufts University. And Tufts, their group is called Shir Appeal. And this is a song from Israel that you have probably heard before called Erev Shel Shoshanim. It is a love song. It is truly beautiful. And I am going to play this for you now. And instead of seeing a production, what you're going to see is actually a live performance by this group from 2019. So this is just before the pandemic. I love that. And that is so fun to see them sing together and have so much fun. What'd you notice about them? I mean, even the most obvious of things. Point them out for me.
The girls' voices made a much different sound.
Right? So not only do we have the same barbershop sound of tenor, tenor, bass, baritone, or baritone bass, we have now alto, soprano mixed in. What else?
Alexa, set a timer for like.
What I notice with all of these groups is just how into it they are and how much they're enjoying it and how they're feeling. It feels like they're creating the music because they're feeling it almost more than when I watch people that are using instruments.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like the music is just part of them and they're creating it because they're feeling it so passionately.
It's a great observation because it's true. It is. There's no other way to... It's like if I were having a conversation with you or if I were giving a sermon, my words won't be able to, you wouldn't be able to deliver my words. It's kind of like if I got up here and gave the I Have a Dream speech. I probably wouldn't come across the same as say, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But that is incredibly true. Is there anything else that you may have seen?
Well, you mentioned earlier, Rabbi, that it's like the a cappella groups are like a team.
Yeah.
And I when my son was in, I really felt that. It was like they depend on each other, and they really are that's why that first thing you played was amazing, because they weren't together.
Right.
But I find they really interact with each other, and they kind of bounce off each other, and they give each other energy. And I love watching that. That's a really neat
Did
part
you
of it.
notice they were looking at each other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A lot.
What did you notice about amplification? See, the things I look for.
Well, I mean, what I saw, first of all, I was watching the people in the back row that were doing their thing, that you could easily, because the amplification to me seemed like the soloist came out loud and clear. So, but the background really made it. And so I was really watching them, like you said, it's part of a team and doing their part. It just made it all work.
Yeah, soloists in percussion were the only ones who had microphones. Why? Because they're the ones that need the most backing. They're the foundational pieces. And then everybody else is to create that background sound. So if you're talking about a choir, right? And if a choir is singing, for example, in a synagogue or a church with a soloist,
like this or this, about that much.
Really, a choir is supposed to be supplementary rather than primary. They're supposed to help make things sound pretty, right? While the soloist is supposed to take out the primary execution of the music. And there are choirs who just do it all together. But what you will see are different people in a cappella groups primarily sing solos. And they are the ones with the microphones because it has to stand out or they'll get drowned out. You just simply won't be able to hear them. I would love to play you something in a moment when I find it. This is a group called STOM. My cousin, by marriage, was in this group and at Washington University in St. Louis. And if you remember an artist who was with us last summer named Lucy Greenbaum was in this group called STOM as well. And they are a really talented group with a totally different feel. And you're going to see why in a very brief moment.
I'm not sure I understand.
Me neither, Siri. What did we notice about Stum?
Could you tell us what they were singing about? I couldn't catch the words enough to know.
Yeah, no idea.
No idea. Okay.
No clue.
The soloists were females.
Soloists were females. All female. Yep. What else?
They danced?
How did they dance? The other group danced too.
They didn't move their feet, did they? They were just moving mostly upper body movements.
It was choreographed.
Yeah, it was choreographed. They were all together.
Yeah, I mean that was more of a performance-y visual rather than just the vocal sound, and Wash U is known for that. They also happen to have, during that time period, I don't know the person's name, but they do have one of the best vocal percussionists in the world. Wow. Who was a part of their group. That sounded a lot like drums, which I thought was primarily really interesting. And they're really one of only a few major Jewish a cappella groups in the Midwest. So that's also something to be said. The University of Michigan has a really wonderful group. But of course, an even better group is the Michigan from the Ohio State University. And if any of you know about the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, you'll know exactly why I just framed that the way that I just did. And because I'm teaching the class, I get to say it. This is a really cool song that I want you to hear. Yeah.
About the last one.
Mhm.
I felt it much more reserved.
Yes.
Their emotions, I just didn't think there was enough motion. I like the groups, especially the college groups, that have a little bit more emotion, but that's my personal thing.
That's
but
fair.
I thought it was extremely reserved and not as fun to watch.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's fair. Tell me what you think of this.
שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה, הנה מה טוב ומרעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומרעים שבת אחים יחד, הנה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, היי שבת אחים גם יחד, שבת אחים גם יחד. Bow, ba, ba, ba,
We're gonna stop that one for a second. Now, I don't think that's one of their best pieces, but it was a song that was made famous by the Miami Youth Boys Choir, Jewish boys choir, all little Orthodox Jewish boys, and they decided to sing it on their own, and I think did that particular piece justice. This song, also by the Meshuganotes, is perhaps the most famous Jewish a cappella song, called Nachamu Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, which is to bring comfort to my people. This is text that is after the destruction of the temple and the exile to Babylon. And so this song, while it doesn't totally embrace the depth of sadness and despair that Jews in the text might suggest, you'll hear how beautiful the melody actually is. And I think the Meshuggah Notes really did it justice. As I said, this is one of the, if not the most popular Jewish a cappella song. Oh, okay. Well, that ended abruptly. But, so as I said, the beat, the rhythm of the song doesn't match the text, and that's the criticism of the song, not so much their interpretation of it. However, what did you think of that song, Nachamu?
Well,
yeah, Barbara.
That's the first time I heard a drum or something being used.
That was vocal.
I couldn't find it though.
Really?
Yep, all vocal.
Wow.
You know, Rabbi Ziv, you and I have something in common because you have this rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State, and I have a rivalry in my own house. And it seems like the teams that have the reddish hue versus the blue are superior. The reddish versus the blue.
Usually that is the case. However, if you were talking about UCLA and USC, my friend, you got to know before whom you stand here. But it's all right. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I also don't want to. I don't want to disappoint the Bornets, so I'm not even going to take it any further on this one.
I got a few allies here.
Absolutely. So, finally, I want to just play you one final piece from the Meshuggah Notes. This was always
Michigan.
My favorite piece that they did, because it was actually the Ohio State's alma mater called Carmen, Ohio. And then they also did their own little twist on it that brought some comedy flair to this a cappella. So I'm going to play that for you now. And so that's the Meshuggah Notes. Jewish a cappella is a fascinating genre because it takes Jewish soul, it takes Jewish tradition, it takes modern thinking, it takes all of the above and brings it to life. And while regular secular a cappella is really cool, i.e. pitch perfect, I really respect Jewish a cappella groups because they take what is traditionally not easy music and turn their harmonies into something incredible and inspire choirs to have choral music using much of the same. And because we're also connected Jewishly, it's really amazing to hear our songs and the songs of our people come to life the way that they do.